like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, where once again it's time for another first impressions video, with it being yet another Wii game today. Another one of these games that I've got in my backlog that I've never played. It's Guilty Gear XX Accent Core, a game I know literally nothing about. Now, when you talk about the Wii, one genre you're not really ever going to talk about is the fighting games, because the main fighting games from this point in time, Soul Calibur, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Dead or Alive, Street Fighter, they basically all skipped the Wii. We got one Mortal Kombat game and one Soul Calibur game, and the Soul Calibur game that came out wasn't even a one-on-one fighter. It was like a hack and slash Streets of Rage style game more than anything else, and it wasn't particularly impressive. So I was really looking forward to trying out Guilty Gear to see what it plays like on the Wii and actually what kind of 2D fighter it is, because I basically knew nothing about this game at all. So once the main menu came around, I was actually surprised by the number of choices that were on offer here. Heading into options, very simplistic stuff. Game options, you can change the difficulty, the number of rounds, that sort of stuff. Key configuration will show you the control pad layout. I would strongly advise you use a Wii Classic controller to play this game, either the one that came with the Monster Hunter box set or the one that came with GoldenEye. They are by far the best controllers to use on the Wii if you're talking about playing a game with a standard pad. Display settings, just let you adjust the screen position and stuff. There is no widescreen support on this game.
Your character.
So heading into the character selection screen, I was quite surprised because there's 23 characters to pick from straight away, and they'd all got different costumes if you selected them with a different button as well. And combined with what seemed like quite a few choices on the main menu screen, the game was giving out quite a strong first impression without me actually having taken part in any of the fighting yet. So like always, I'm going to start with visuals first, and I was genuinely surprised when I started playing this how good this game still looks now. Take into account this game is well over 15 years old, but it still looks really good. The characters are big, bright, really sharp and crisp. The background's got lots of detail. The colour in the game is absolutely brilliant too, and the animations for all the moves, in my opinion, look absolutely fantastic. Now, this doesn't mean the game looks perfect, because I can see two flaws from my first impressions. First of all, the fact that it doesn't have widescreen support. This came out on the Wii. All the games on the Wii should really have widescreen support, so that is a massive downside for me. And the other one is the fact that backgrounds, whilst looking really good, don't really have a whole lot going on in them, so they do come across as a little bit boring. But other than that, from playing this game for about an hour or so, I would say this game is a very good looking 2D fighter for the Wii.
You win.
So moving on to the sound effects and music, and it actually seemed pretty good here as well, because the music is a kind of hard, heavy rock style of music, which actually suits the visual presentation, and all the characters within this game really, really good. Whilst it's not my personal favourite in terms of musical style, it suits this game very, very well, and all the sound effects for all the moves are absolutely spot on as well. I don't think I could say a single negative thing about the music or the sound effects for all the moves. The only negatives I could say would be the announcer getting a little bit repetitive when he keeps shouting counter, counter, counter. And also at the start of the fights, when the characters say something to each other, it's all in Japanese and there's not even any subtitles, so you don't know what they're saying to each other. Now, this isn't the only kind of fighting game that's prone to have this. It's a lot of 2D fighting games actually down the years have had this, and it's just a little minor niggle, but overall I feel the game is really good, especially with the music fitting the game. So what I'll do is play you a few tracks from the game so you can listen for yourselves. So moving on to the gameplay next, and the game employs a 6-button layout, but it's not quite what you'd expect because it's not the same as Street Fighter. We've got a punch, a kick, a slash, a heavy slash, a dust attack, and a taunt move, but when you're inputting the commands for all your special moves, it is very similar to the Capcom fighting games. If you've played other 2D fighting games, you may well come into this and actually do relatively well straight away. We've got a tension bar at the bottom of the screen as well that fills up, which will give you access to your more powerful moves, which is of course very similar to many other fighting games as well. In terms of how good does it play, it actually plays really well. It's responsive, it's really easy to input the moves to pull off all your special attacks, and I actually found myself doing relatively well on the beginner settings. Now, I blasted through quite a few rounds without any problems. It was only when I got to round 9 where it seemed to spike massively in difficulty, and I was pretty much taken back by it. Eventually I got past round 9, but when I got onto stage 10, the spike in difficulty was pretty much insane, and this was on the very easiest difficulty setting, so I have no idea how hard this game would be if you turned up the difficulty. I feel like it would probably be impossible to play. Now, moving on to the content and lifespan, and we've got single-player exhibition and two-player exhibition battles. We've got arcade mode, which is 10 battles against the CPU, but there wasn't any story elements to this, and I kind of find that a little bit disappointing in fighting games. Now, there may well be ending sequences for the characters, but I couldn't actually defeat the final character within my 1 hour of playing this game, so it's actually quite a challenge to just simply complete the arcade mode. You've got survival mode as well, and apparently this is where you can unlock extra versions of characters every 20 levels, EX versions of characters, if what I've read is correct. And we've also got a mode of millionaires mode as well, which I think is a similar mode to survival mode, but you get medals for doing it. Now, I didn't actually play that in my initial hour of the game, and perhaps this is the main mode of play, if I'm perfectly honest, because arcade mode seems pretty shallow in all fairness. You've got a training mode as well, which is nice to be able to go on there and practice and get used to the game, and that was actually the first thing I did when I started playing the game. But I feel overall the lifespan of the game is going to come down to you and how much you simply enjoy playing it and want to learn each character and try and memorize all of their moves. I think that is where the main bulk of lifespan with this game is. So like always, I need to give this game a final grade and say whether I think it's a game that I would come back to and play more of in the future. There's no denying this is a very nice looking 2D fighting game, and in fact visually it's really only let down by the fact it doesn't have widescreen support. It sounds fantastic as well, and it plays really, really well. The only downside being the fact that it gets very, very difficult with the final 2 battles in arcade mode, and that was on the easiest difficulty as well. There is no denying if you put this game on the harder difficulties, it's going to give even the most hardcore fighting fans an absolute beast of a challenge, as far as I can tell from my first impressions. Content and lifespan, I don't think it's that good here because there's no storyline element to any of the fights, and that just lets it down a little bit for me. That's a little bit of a downside for fighting games. I love it when it's like Soul Blade and there's a real rich story for the characters and stuff, and this game doesn't have that. And it's for those reasons I'm going to give this game a C+, which is the same grade I gave Colin McRae Dirt 2. That game gave you a real intensive, enjoyable experience, but only for a short amount of time. Whereas I feel this game would give you more long-term appeal if you are a fan of this series of fighting games. So a C+ is what Guilty Gear gets, a very respectable score. Do I think I'm going to play it more in the future? No, definitely not. The fact that it's got no storyline element just puts me off, really, so it won't be a game that I am revisiting in the near or even distant future. But has anyone out there played this game or any of the other Guilty Gear games? Because I know there are quite a lot of games in this series now dating back to the original PlayStation. Let me know your thoughts on this game or any of the other games in this series, and like always, I'll be back in the near future with another first impressions video. Goodbye for now.